Everything you need to know about products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on CL 650.
I'm off to the subway. I must not be late. I'm going to work in tall buildings.
How do you get these? That's a good one. And that's what he does. Some short buildings, some tall buildings. Drew Grout is here from Key Pacific Property Management, along with Gordon Lai, Vice President, CMW Insurance, and Albert Atfield, Project Manager of CanStar Restorations. And we're going back to the mailbag. And Drew, I think this one's for you. I keep hearing that newly built buildings come with a warranty. What is it, and what requirements are there to keep the warranty intact?
Yeah, so new buildings generally come with a new home warranty, as it's referred to, and it typically gives protection for 15-month, 2-year, 5-year, and 10-year warranties for different aspects of the building, such as workmanship and defects in the initial years. Then you get a 5-year warranty on the envelope. You get a 10-year warranty on foundations and structure. All along the way, the Strata Corporation needs to do an assessment of their building, and if there's anything that would fall under that section of the warranty, a warrantable thing, they should advise the warranty company and the developer, who will look into dealing with it. Ultimately, if the developer doesn't step to the plate and it's a warrantable item, then the new home warranty will step in and
But they're asking, how do you keep it intact? Because if you don't do X, Y, and Z, can the warranty be voided?
Yes.
Okay.
If you don't report a warrantable item by midnight of the day the warranty expires, then you don't have much of a prayer of getting the warranty company to support that warranty claim. They're pretty specific about that. You got to get it in by that time, or we won't accept it.
So, okay, you have a building that is new, and the developer is selling off the units, right? So when does the warranty kick in? When the first unit is sold, or when you buy your unit? Well,
it depends. Common property warranty begins with the conveyance of the first unit.
Sure.
If you have a multiple building strata, each building's time clock starts when the first unit in that building conveys. If you're a homeowner, you get the same sort of warranty for your particular strata. It starts when it's conveyed to you.
Okay.
So there's different times. So throughout the first several years, there's different times when buildings are warranties are going to expire because they start at later dates. So you need to kind of track that on a calendar or whatever, and try not to lose track of that. Because if you do, you could be out of warranty.
The next question says, our last SGM, that special general meeting, is that right? Was in April, and we voted on resolutions regarding some major renovations and upgrades. After the meeting, I was told by the council president that the votes were informal, so the votes didn't count. The minutes have never been distributed. Is this right? Can they have a vote and not consider it valid?
Yeah, it's hard to know exactly what the parameters were of this special general meeting. But a special general meeting could be called for information purposes only, with no specific plans for the owners to consider a 3/4 vote to do anything. They may be dealing with information and getting a straw poll vote so that they can walk away thinking, okay, the owners want us to pursue this further. In which case, often there won't be minutes. Not that there shouldn't be, but there wasn't a formal vote taken. But on the contrary, if there was proper notice given for a special 3/4 vote to be considered by the owners, and everything was convened properly and the vote was taken, then that vote holds.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and that should be in the minutes.
Yes, and there should be in the minutes. Some votes may be simply, though, to give council approval to proceed with something. That doesn't direct them to do it tomorrow or the next day.
So maybe they say investigate this further.
It could be.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, this next one is very timely. I live in a small strata. By mutual agreement, the owners take turns performing shoveling snow and irrigating landscaping. One non-resident owner refuses to do her share. She's offered to pay the strata for her share of the work, but we'd rather she hire someone herself. Can we fine her for not doing her share? So this person doesn't live in the building and is not there, I guess, to shovel and irrigate in the summer. So how would you deal with that one?
Well, it's unfortunate, but the reality is that the strata corporation cannot make somebody responsible for common property. So she's not responsible for shoveling her walk or trimming her grass. That's a strata corporation expense and responsibility, and they can't by bylaw make her responsible for the strata corporation's responsibility. So I think they need to work with her and perhaps consider getting a contractor in to do it for the whole strata. It's a small strata. But I certainly understand where they're coming from. People want to keep costs down. Everybody's participative, but she isn't, for obvious reasons. But I don't think that they can pursue her, enforce her to spend money on something that is a strata corporation's responsibility to uphold.
But this next question is very interesting. The ground floor of our strata has several commercial units that our bylaws designate as a commercial section. The commercial section feels it should not have to pay for the roof levy because they have no roof. Who's right? So, you live on the first floor. I don't have a roof. So only the guy that lives on the top floor pays for it? That doesn't make sense to me. But I know you're going to get into it because it's a bit complicated, isn't it?
Well, I think what you're saying is generally the reality. It's like it's everybody's roof. It's not just the top floor's roof. Yeah. But what's important is that how is that roof identified on the strata plan? Is it identified as common property of the strata corporation? Or is it identified as common property or limited common property of the residential part, which is just below the roof?
Now, you were mentioning in a previous show that the newer buildings, they're taking the stratas. There's two stratas. One is for the commercial buildings on the main floor and then the residential above. Because we had a question one time before, somebody saying, well, there was an issue, but they had to have separate insurance.
Well, this is referring to a strata that has sections.
Right.
So you have the strata corporation, but then you have a section for the commercial and a section for the residential. Mm-hmm. And they have some latitude to do things that directly affect them and maintain things that are directly for their use. Inside hallways of the residential section. Things pertaining directly to the commercial section. Could be
underground parking, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, things of that nature. Although a lot of that is, it gets a little complicated. Sometimes it's contractual. But the roof is generally a common property. The envelope is generally strata corporation common property. And all sections
contribute
to that.
Okay. Makes sense. Like we said, you can't not have a roof. I mean, just because you're on the ground floor doesn't mean the roof isn't keeping you dry. All right. Our strata has a problem with items like beds and sofas being left by the garbage, and it costs us extra to haul it away. What can we do?
Yeah, that's an ongoing concern all the time in stratas.
People just dump things in there, right?
Yeah, when people are moving out, often in the high rental buildings, you might see more of that happening. Often stratas have taken different approaches. They've designated areas for people to put those large items aside in that area, and then once a month or every couple of months, the strata corporation will arrange for it to be removed. Mm-hmm. It becomes part of the strata corporation operating expense.
We had waste management here before, and they do like some stratas do twice a year. They come and take all your large items. We'll take them away, right?
Yeah. So that's the other thing other stratas do. Townhomes do that mostly because you can move a big bin onto the site with little problem. When you have underground parking, it's a little more difficult sometimes. So there are different strategies people have employed to help deal with that. Communication's a key one, trying to get people moving out, take care of their own stuff. Mm-hmm. But the reality is they're not going to. In many cases.
This one, we've covered this question before, but it's worth bringing up again. We live in an older strata in Vancouver, and we have many formidable repair expenses in our future. We have a large lot, great location, discussed opting to dissolve the strata and sell the property to a developer. What's involved with this procedure? Have you seen this before?
Well, it's becoming much more topical because there are stratas in that age group that people are considering that. There's some that already have, and it's become a little easier for that to be done. Used to require a unanimous vote. Now it's dropped to an 80% vote. Our esteemed partner here from CMW, if you visit their website, they have a little infograph prepared by Clark Wilson of the cycle that you should look at following to follow that process. But it could take a year to 2 years go through that process. And you really need to dot your I's, cross your T's.
Because a lot of these old stratas that date back to the 60s, these are old buildings now, right? And a lot of them were wood, they were frame, and they have a lot of issues, and they're in prime locations, like think of Kitsilano, places like that, they're worth a lot of money, the lot, right?
Yeah. So it has begun. It has begun. There are stratas where, developers are starting to focus on a particular building with a view to getting in to speak to the owners about selling their property so that they could tear down and build whatever they're going to build, but it's going to be something big and house more people and that sort of thing.
Do people, you're not a real estate expert, but I mean, do they get market value for these things typically? Or like, how does it done?
I think they get at least market value.
And, so if your condo is worth $300,000, if it was working properly in a regular real estate environment, they would get that.
Yeah, it's like anything. A developer wants it, they're going to offer you an incentive. The incentive is going to be a higher price.
Sure. But then But then they take away all of the outstanding issues. $100,000 roof, or
Well, and this is where you need to employ the services of a lawyer.
Yeah.
Because it really becomes intricate. What are you going to sell it for the future value? I've heard a recent story where people were holding out because it was worth, let's say, $1 million, but because of the potential, it could be worth $2 million. So let's hold out for $1.5 million, and they can run into problems. It could really drag things down or slow things down. So you really need to get real estate experts and lawyers involved in this whole process. It's not something that a strata council should take upon themselves.
No, I wouldn't imagine. And I think the
owners have to be involved.
Yes, they would all have to, like you said, an 80% agreement. Right?
Yeah.
And I could see that if a building had been left so long and repairs not done, that it might be, especially with the crazy real estate market we live in, an option that helps solve problems for people.
Yeah, I was speaking with a fellow recently who owns a few units in a property. I'm not going to say where, but it's prime location. Several acres, old building, and from the sounds of it, they're not doing a lot in the way of putting a lot of money in for repairs. They haven't done the depreciation report. They probably won't. And it strikes me as a sort of property. It's just going to be ripe for owners to make that decision. I think financially they might come out on top. Not necessarily,
especially if it's a primo location. Right?
Yeah, you can still lose money on good deals.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful.
Yeah. Because the market can move so quickly, right? I have friends who have sold a house and they said, well, we're going to wait and we're going to buy it. And then the market moves so quickly, they can't get back in.
Well, you can have a situation where if the whole property is sold as a unit, then the owners will get different shares.
Depending on their square footage, right?
Yeah, or not, depending on what the agreement is put in place for the divesting of the property. So
very complex.
Yes.
That's the voice of Drew Grout from Key Pacific Property Management. We also have Gordon Lai here from CMW Insurance, and we'll get back to some questions for Albert Atfield from CanStar Restorations next on StrataLife on CL 650.
This is Experts on Call on CL 650.